All right, welcome back to another edition of the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast. This is our Week 7 recap episode, and I'm Brad.
This is Zach.
And I'm Hefe.
All right, we definitely want to thank you for listening, watching, whatever the case may be. Please be sure to show us some love, like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends. Every little bit helps, and we definitely appreciate the support. Let's get into it right away. With the Giants and the Eagles. Dumpster fire versus dumpster fire. Who has the biggest dumpster fire? And unfortunately, the Giants won in the dumpster fire challenge.
Yeah, the Eagles had a better overall stats, and I'm surprised this one was as close as it was. But that's just football, I guess. They had 10 more first downs, ran 17 more plays, had 117 more yards, less penalties, and 5 more minutes of possession time. So by all means, they should have just dominated this game. But hats off to the Giants for keeping it competitive, and credit to the Eagles for winning their second game of the season and taking first place in the NFC East.
And it was the most NFC East thing possible, that the most exciting play from this game got ruined because the dude just tripped on the 20-yard line. Like, come on, bro.
Have you seen the internet memes? The people are putting all kinds of obstacles in his way.
Oh, God, I bet they're hilarious.
Yeah, they are hilarious.
My favorite one was the one with Randy Orton giving him the RKO.
Right. All right, let's move on from that one. Let's move on to the Lions at the Falcons. Look, speaking of, the last game, the typical NFCs thing could happen, typical Falcons thing that can happen. The big story here is that the Falcons are claiming they lost because Todd Gurley accidentally scored a touchdown. You can't make this stuff up. So if he doesn't score, then the Falcons have a minute 5. There's a minute 5 on the clock when he scores. He stumbles. He forgets to fall down. He falls down at the last second. The Lions are screaming at the referees to call a touchdown. They're holding their hands up in the air for the referees to call a touchdown. The Falcons are probably arguing to not call a touchdown. And then they score, and then they give the ball back to Stafford, and he marches them down the field and drove 75 yards in 64 seconds to win the game. And now I'm going to go on a rant here because it's kind of funny, with what the whole thing's kind of funny. But if you're going to, we're going to blame Gurley, really? I mean, your defense, your suck-ass defense just allowed somebody to drive 75 yards in 64 seconds. So you're going to blame a guy because he accidentally scored a touchdown? How about Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator who's now the interim head coach? He's a defensive coordinator in the NFL, and he gave up 75 yards in 64 seconds, and they're going to blame a guy who did what he's been trained to do ever since he was 6 years old and his dad first put a football in his hands, and then score a freaking touchdown. Morris he's a defensive coordinator, for crying out loud. I don't know. I don't know what the actual I don't know.
Yeah, I feel the same with you. It's not Gurley's fault. I mean, you play to put points up on the board, and I understand all situational awareness, and you could do this, you could do that, not allow them to have the time because, I mean, good quarterbacks like Matt Stafford are capable of doing that. So I understand where they're coming from, but definitely don't place the blame on Gurley. He did his job, put in the points. It is absolutely 100% your defense. 75-yard drive, 8 plays in less than a minute 4, I think it was. Yeah, that's 100% defense fault. Can't place the blame anywhere else, but leave it to the Falcons to blow another lead late in the fourth quarter.
Real late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like the latest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a time ran off the clock as Stafford threw it in the end zone to Hawkinson for the win. So I picked the Falcons to win this. They should have won this, but that's what we get for picking the Falcons this year.
Yep, that's about how I felt.
Man, a few words. That's it. You're done? So you got it.
You guys said everything. I don't have anything.
Yeah, I will throw in here.
More to say, is there?
Yeah,
I will throw in here that Detroit is 500 now. They're 3-3 and only 2 games back from the Packers in the NFC North. The Bears still have to play tonight, so we'll see how that turns out. But regardless, they're 2 games behind Green Bay.
Yeah. All right. Bills at the Jets. What a weird weekend. So the story here is Josh Allen has over 300 yards and no touchdowns. Sam Darnold has only 120 yards passing with 2 interceptions, and the Jets damn near won the game anyway. 6 field goals. 6 field goals. At least you're putting points on the board. But damn, it's it's the Jets, man. I don't get it. Everybody's due for a down game. And the the Bills have just shown that they're vulnerable like everybody else. But in the end, they pulled it off. By the way, there were 17 penalties in this game, and only six of them for New York. The Bills definitely got to get that straightened out as well.
Yeah, you kind of just stole my thunder here because the Bills should have absolutely destroyed the Jets. Still can't believe that the Jets had a 10-6 halftime lead before the Bills ultimately turned around the second half and won 18-10. But as you just said, the penalties were a big factor. And looking at the stat sheet, I was trying to find any anomalies in there, and Buffalo absolutely dominated every single category except for penalties, where they had 11 for 106 yards. I didn't get to watch this game, so I would assume that there were offensive penalties. If you can't put the ball in the end zone like they've been doing against this Jets defense, I would assume they're offensive penalties, so I may be wrong there. But, yeah, 11 penalties, 106 yards compared to the New York 6 for 49. You see how it affected the Bills. You just can't do that in this league. We say it every single week.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you said, Josh Allen had over 300 yards, and I don't remember last time I saw a quarterback throw the ball 40 times, come away with 300 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. It's such a weird game. But they got to find a way to get somebody other than Josh Allen going in the run game. Offensively, that's where they're vulnerable. I think that's why they're having a hard time scoring touchdowns in the red zone lately. They got to find a way. I think they should start leaning on Zach Moss. He's looked better than Devin Singletary has. So hopefully, they start leaning on the rookie a little more, let him get loose, and maybe they'll start winning. But that seems to be their glaring need right now, is to get going in the running game.
For sure. Okay. Next up, Browns at the Bengals. Interdivision. I keep telling you, things get really crazy inside a division. And I guess the big news out of yesterday, obviously, is that Beckham is now out for the season. I think a torn ACL. And Jeff, I know you're a big Browns fan. How does this affect the Browns from here forward?
I was thinking about that just a little while ago, and my thought on it is that we saw Baker. Okay, this is the Bengals defense, so what we saw yesterday could have been an anomaly, but Baker threw like 22 out of 23 passes were completions after he started 0 for 5 with an interception, and Odell went out early. So my thought process here is that maybe having Odell in the lineup was more of not a distraction, but like Baker had to look his way because he's Odell, instead of flowing through his natural progressive reads on every play. So I'm thinking, maybe not having them there might be better for the offense. Like I said, he completed like 20 in a row. It was 22 of 23 when it's all said and done. He had 5 passing touchdowns, so a huge day. And Odell wasn't there for most of it. He didn't have a catch before he left. I don't know if it's gonna be so detrimental. We'll have to see when they play a better team how they look, but I don't know if it's going to be the worst thing for them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to jump in here. I agree with you, Jeff. I actually have this written down in my notes that Baker tends to play better without Odell Beckham being in there. Uh, Even in Odell's previous injuries when he's been out, Baker's played a lot better, and I think going forward he'll do well, especially without him. If I was management on the Browns, I would start looking for trade offers for Odell, get some value out of him while you can. Baker plays at a better level. Jarvis Landry tends to step up when Odell's out as well. So we'll see. And you also have Austin Hooper, who's capable of taking workload off Jarvis too. So we'll see. But going back to this game, it was the Battle of Ohio Part 2. There's another high-scoring matchup. The first game, Cleveland won 35-30. This game, the Browns made a fourth-quarter comeback, won at 37-34. I picked Cleveland, and if you guys remember, Cleveland was favored by 3.5. I went on a limb and said Cincinnati was going to cover that spread. Cleveland was going to win, but Cincy was going to cover, and boy, they did. So if anybody listening out there threw down any bets for Cincy to cover on this one, you are welcome.
Yeah, and I want to expand on this Odell thing again because that's one thing that really made Manning and Tom Brady great is that their willingness to spread the ball around, their ability to throw. They made, and if you make it to the NFL, you're a good player, right? I hate using bad player, good player, average player in the NFL, because if you make it to the NFL, you've done something right. I mean, right? We have to admit that. But Manning and Brady both had, and I'll just stick with those two. They had the ability to take an average player and make him great, and really spread the ball around. And yesterday, in the Steelers game, even the Steelers in their first two drives, their first two touchdowns, 10 different players, offensive players, touched the ball. And so that may be kind of what we're talking about. I don't know the situation with Odell. I don't really want to speculate, but I wonder, but I will speculate, I guess. Is it that he demands the ball, and or if either he demands it through his contract, or just his personality, or Baker uses him too much and relies on him too much, and then if he doesn't have him, he looks elsewhere. But you bring up an excellent point, and I wanted to throw those other two quarterbacks, those two amazing franchises over a 20-year period, and of course what the Steelers did Sunday, that spreading the ball around can be amazingly beneficial from an offensive standpoint. So it'd be interesting to watch what happens there in Cleveland. All right, next up, I feel like we're on a comedy show. The Cowboys at the Washington football team. So Washington beat Dallas. Did you hear what I said? Washington football team beat Dallas. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a three-way tie for first place in the NFC East. Yes, that's right. There's basically a three-way tie with a combined record of 6-14-1. Your New York Giants in hot pursuit, only one game out of first place at 1-6. I mean, are you kidding me? This is
crazy.
This is potentially the worst division in the history of the NFL.
And the sad thing is that one of them is going to host a playoff game. It's absolutely sad. They need to change the rules on that for sure. I can understand you win your division, you get into the playoffs, but hosting a playoff game with a losing record.
Yeah, if this happens, look, and Hefe, you said something on social media yesterday about that one of these teams could make the playoffs at 7-9, and I made a joke they could do it at 3, but I kind of wasn't joking. If they all split the division and then they lose to everybody else, the winner could get in. The Eagles could get in with 3 wins. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Hopefully the odds are in favor where we'll at least win 5 of them. I don't know, but what a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. But in this game, I should have went with my gut and taken Washington, even though they took this one 25-3. I took Dallas because I thought Andy Dalton might settle in and start playing well. Unfortunately, he was concussed by a vicious, super dirty hit by Washington's John Bostic, which I'm hearing that he will not be suspended for, which I highly disagree with that if that's the league's decision. That was a blatant helmet-to-helmet hit. You're a professional football player. You know he's going down. You know that's one of the most vulnerable positions for a player to be in. There's no excuse for that. Super dirty. Even Ron Rivera apologized to Mike McCarthy after the game, saying, quote, "I wanted McCarthy to know we don't play that way." So this dude deserves a suspension and a massive fine, and I hope Andy Dalton's fine because he didn't deserve a hit like that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Look, I mean, what a bullshit hit. Concussions are no joke, man. And the guy gave himself up, and you drop the hammer on him. I mean, the game is brutal enough with the chance of injury every play. There's no reason to intentionally be a jackass and jeopardize a man's career. What a coward, man. That's. I hope Ron Rivera. I'm going to challenge Ron Rivera if he gets this. If anybody wants to forward this to him, put your money where your mouth is. Put this guy on the bench. You don't play that way. Let's see what you got. Let's put him on the bench. Let's make a statement we don't play that way. Because if you just tell the guy, oh, you shouldn't have done that, and you play him next week, he doesn't learn anything. He doesn't learn anything at all.
That's how you end up with Vontaze Burfict.
Yep, exactly.
Right? I just get control of the situation. I'm telling you. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on, and Zach, you know this more than I do. there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and there's a lot of emotions. But man, dropping a hammer on a guy that just gave himself up is he ripped his helmet off, right? Didn't his helmet come off?
Yeah, he hit him. It was
Yeah,
straight helmet to helmet, and his helmet went flying. I mean, you're a professional football player, even at the collegiate level and high school level. You know when a quarterback is about to slide like that. So he knew what he was doing.
damn right he did. So anyway, we're wishing Andy Dalton a speedy recovery. Hopefully, it's not serious, and he's able to return.
Yeah, but outside of that, the Cowboys are dog shit right now.
They are who we thought they were. How about them boys, huh?
It's great. I love it.
The cool thing is that it happened early. All the Cowboys fans shut up real early, and it's been pretty nice. And I have a lot of friends that are Cowboys fans, so if you're a Cowboys fan, just laugh with us. All right, next up, Packers at Texans. No surprises here. The Packers shake off an unexpected and devastating loss the week before, and they rally to kick an already down Texans team. No surprise.
Yeah, well, Aaron Rodgers didn't throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns like I predicted, but he did throw for 283 with 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. The Packers won 35-0 without star running back Aaron Jones, I might add. They move on to 5-1 while the Texans drop to 1-6. And man, from a Colts fan's perspective, I absolutely love it.
And a Dolphins fan's perspective. The
True.
Dolphins own all the Texans draft picks.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that. Yep,
Yeah.
That's going to be real nice for the Dolphins.
Real nice. So it's a double whammy. If you're a Colts fan and a Dolphins fan, it's fun to watch the Texans flounder. Sorry, JJ.
Yeah, right. Trade him to the Colts, might as well, right? But I think that this game, Jamal Williams filled in nicely for Aaron Jones. I think that was a big thing. He didn't have a huge 150-yard game or anything, but ran the ball when they needed him to and was able to kind of clock it out when Deshaun started to get hot and kind of get things rolling. But shout out to Devontae Adams. He had 13 catches, 196, and 2 touchdowns in this one. So massive day for the star receiver.
Yes, sir. All right. Panthers at Saints. I don't have a whole lot on this and I know you guys do. You have a little bit more about the Panthers, especially. The Panthers are proving to be a real menace in the NFC South right now. Despite eventually, falling to the Saints, they were in the game all day.
Yeah, they definitely made a game of this one. It was tied 24-24 heading into the fourth quarter before New Orleans ended up kicking a field goal with 7 minutes left, taking the lead. They won 27-24. But Jeff and I told you last week that the Panthers had a very solid chance here, and they almost pulled it off. But the Saints ultimately found a way to win, and they really needed this game. They moved to 4-2 on the season. They stay only a half game behind the Bucs for the division lead. So it was a huge game for them.
Yeah, huge game for him. Getting all these wins without Michael Thomas is going to be big, and they didn't have Emmanuel Sanders here either. So they were down their top 2 receivers and still were able to pull out this win. The defense, once they were able to get Marcus Davenport and Marshall and Lattimore back in the lineup, they definitely tightened up. The Panthers were able to get theirs in this one, and they look like you said, they're going to be a problem for people. They may make the playoffs, they may not, but either way, they're going to be a problem for people. And they only had 1 penalty in this game, so Matt Rule not only has them playing well, but they're playing disciplined football too. So hopefully they can rattle off some wins. But like you said, a huge win for the Saints this week, going to 4-2.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch that division. The Panthers have emerged a contender. I don't know if they're going to be on the Bucs level. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's good to see that there are 3 teams that are competitive in that division, unlike the NFC East. All right. So next up, Steelers at Titans. I got a lot to say about this one, boys. I didn't realize this. I didn't realize we should have talked about this in last week that the Titans had 601 total yards offense against the Texans. And I didn't realize that until the other day. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, even though that's last week, it's pretty damn impressive, right? Even though they still had to come from behind to win again, and they're still barely beating, teams that are winning. But this game is very complex, right? So it's a tale of 2 halves. I'm not really sure on the second half what the deal was. why this happened the way it did, but there's a couple things I can tell you. All right. You know how you beat a high-powered offense with a shitty defense? Ball control, baby. Keep that shitty defense on the field. That's what made the difference in the first half. The Steelers just grinding it out for 2 drives, spreading the ball around, 10 players touching the ball. They made it look easy. And in the first 18 minutes of the game, Derrick Henry had 1 carry for 1 yard. There's no way the Titans are going to win if Derrick Henry is carrying the ball 1 time for 1 yard. So keep his ass on the bench. And everybody knows that now. I mean, the secret's out. If you watch the game and you know the coaches did and they got it coming up, they're going to have film. That's going to be the secret, is going to be ball control and grind this out. The Titans allowed Pittsburgh to go 8 for 9 on 3rd down conversions and 3 for 4 in the red zone in the first half. We know the Titans are the worst in the league in both those categories. Pittsburgh's first drive, they looked like it was a practice, an inter squad game. I mean, it looked like practice. I mean, they just did what they wanted to do. On the flip side of that, the Titans' very first possession was not only 3 and out, but in the on first down, Tannehill was almost sacked and threw it away. And on the second possession, Henry lost a yard. And the third possession, 3rd down, Tannehill almost threw an interception. Unfortunately, the game turned a little bit in the second half, and I'll leave it to the coaches to figure out why that happened. I'm sure they will. But I also want to point out, Zach, you had talked about in the preview the Steelers' physicality and how they were going to approach this game. They were going to come after Henry. And, boy, the case in point was Robert Spillane. His jarring tackle. I mean, he just lowered the boom and hit Henry on a 3rd and goal play and stopped him dead in his tracks. And we had talked about this. If you can stop a grown man in the NFL in their tracks, you are a grown man. If you can stop Derrick Henry, you're a badass. Stopped him dead in his tracks. Henry didn't know what hit him and just dropped completely to the ground. It was monstrous. And unfortunately for Spillane, he came out of the game with an injury that we still have no report on the status of his injury. So he hit Henry so freaking hard he hurt himself. But it was well worth it, because no matter what happens in that kid's career, he has got a highlight reel to show to his grandkids. He'll be talking about that hit for 40 years.
Oh, yeah. He definitely earned the respect of his teammates and probably everybody else throughout the league, because he lowered his head, went straight after Derrick Henry, stopped him on a dime. If you haven't watched it, Google it, YouTube it. Amazing hit. And this is the guy who is a 2nd string linebacker. He started this week over Devin Bush, who's been out of an injury. So Mike Tomlin said last week that he had full faith and confidence in his ability, and he did not disappoint. He came down and laid the hammer on Derrick Henry, and it was great to see. But this game as a whole, it was great to watch, especially in the second half. The Titans made their comeback before ultimately falling 27-24. Tannehill had another pretty impressive game. He only had 220 yards, but he still had 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But hats off to the Steelers in that defense. They limited Derrick Henry to only 75 yards and a score on 20 carries. They slowed him just enough and limited Tannehill just enough to pull it out. And so they move on to 6-0. They're the only unbeaten team left in the league, while Tennessee drops to 5-1, are now only 1 game ahead of the Colts in the AFC South standings.
Yeah, and you're wondering what happened in that second half. And as Colts fans, we saw what Phillip Rivers did in the second half of the Jags game week 1. That was Ben Roethlisberger in the second half of this game. He was throwing the ball to the Titans the entire second half. You know, they the whole score sheet, the Steelers dominated this game, but Ben throwing 3 interceptions, the only thing that kept this interesting.
Yeah, and I think this game proved 2 things for me. We've talked a lot about, are the Titans legit? Okay. And the 2 things that I think it proved is that the Titans aren't as good as their record shows. Now, I want to keep that relative, because I did not say the Titans are not good. I mean, they're an AFC South team, and I'm a Colts fan. I'm not going to kick them just because I can kick them. The Titans are for real. And the Titans could they could make some key adjustments, and they could tighten some things down. See what I did there? And they could make a playoff run, and they're very capable of getting deep into the postseason. If things go their way, a couple things go their way, they might find themselves in a Super Bowl. But I think this game showed they're not as good as their record showed. It shows why they've struggled against some poor teams. On the flip side, I think it also shows the Steelers are pretty good. I thought maybe 2020 and your schedule and things going your way. That first half, I was impressed, really, really impressed. And the Steelers are a force in the AFC to contend with, for real.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they honestly coming out of this weekend might be Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair statement. I'm going to have to give that some thought, but
and trust me, that hurts my soul to think that about the Steelers, but it's got to be true.
Yeah, I know it does. Okay, next up, Bucks Raiders. Something else that escaped me from last week that we talk about a lot is that the Bucks had 0 penalties against the Packers. I picked the Raiders in this game, and it's kind of based off the Bucks have played up or played down, and the Raiders, I think the Raiders are better than people give them credit for. I think they're a pretty good AFC team. They were at home, so I thought if there was going to be an upset, it could happen here. I actually logged on about 1:30 p.m. yesterday and changed it, and then logged back on about 5 minutes later and changed it back to the Raiders again. But hindsight's 2020. I mean, geez, man, these are the Bucks we talked about in the offseason. You know, when we talked about the Bucks in the offseason, it was a foregone conclusion they were going to win the Super Bowl and they were unbeatable. And then we saw them sputter a little bit, but it is all coming together. And I'll tell you what, Brady looks good. If not as good, maybe even better than we've seen him. He's stretching the field out. He's throwing the long ball more. He threw that touchdown pass to Mike Evans yesterday, and he couldn't have thrown a more perfect ball. I mean,
yeah, back in the corner, that was a dime.
I couldn't believe he put that in his hands. He didn't have any room for error. 6 inches in another direction, that's not a touchdown. That was a beautifully thrown ball, you know. And now they're attempting to bring Antonio Brown into the mix. And I know Arian said that he's not going to put up with any BS. So, Hefe, I see you shaking your head. I want you to hear me out. All right. Brown went into New England thinking whatever was going to happen or whatever, and Beelzebub shipped his ass right back out. I think he probably had enough time to build a rapport with Brady. There's no doubt in my mind Brady has something to do with him coming to Tampa, and so I'm sure that Brady has said, if I'm going to vouch for you and be your advocate, we have to get some things straight. And I'm sure they've had a heart to heart. And Brown, so by all rights, Brown should know this is it. If he can't cut it in Tampa, he's done. Can we all agree on that?
Yep.
Yeah. So he has to know that. So either he's going to get his head out of his butt and going to be what they want him to be, or he really is just absolutely batshit crazy and he's going to disappear. But if he comes in with the right attitude, he may take an already dynamic and prolific offense to the next level, and I don't even know how that's possible at this point.
Yeah, they're looking really good right now. Like you said, as soon as Chris Godwin came back in the lineup, you know, the last 2 weeks their offense has been unstoppable, and they really didn't even run the ball that much. You know, they ran it well, but they didn't even run the ball. Tom Brady, they were up for most of this game, and Tom still threw 45 times, and they're just able to do whatever they want. Like you said, bringing Antonio Brown into the mix. That's going to get 3 Pro Bowl wide receivers on the roster. It's going to be like playing Madden out there. Like you said, what we thought they would be, they're going to be everything and more of that with Antonio Brown in the lineup. So, you know, they're humming right now. Their defense is still playing at an elite level. They shut Josh Jacobs down in this game. So, you know, they're 5-2, but they might finish the year at 14-2 the way they're playing.
Yeah, like I said last week, the Bucks seemed like they had found their identity after that emphatic win over the Packers. But now they are truly one of the most dangerous teams in the league. They absolutely embarrassed the Raiders at home. Well, the Raiders were at home in Vegas, 45-20. Tom Brady, 369 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. And like you guys said, they're bringing in Antonio Brown now. So if he could keep his cool and not fracture this locker room, the Bucs could very well be the first team to ever play in and host a Super Bowl in the same year.
Yeah, and and I know the Packers. You've convinced me on the Packers, and the Packers have convinced me on the Packers, and we were just talking about the Steelers. But at this point, in my opinion, the Bucs are the team to beat.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty much all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and to note on your penalties this week, the Bucs only had 4 penalties for 20 yards, so a lot better, and it showed.
So if we're going to break it down and we're going to talk about penalties and the lack of discipline in the locker room, kudos to Arians I don't know who fixed it. I don't know who fixed it, but kudos to someone with enough leadership to fix that problem, because that would have been the holes in the boat. It would have sank the ship, and they look like they've certainly got that turned around. So good on them. All right, next up, Chiefs and Broncos. Can I read something to you guys?
Go for it.
All right. This is an interview with Broncos left tackle Garrett Bowles. Have you heard this?
I have not.
I think we're neck and neck. That's just me personally. I don't think there's anything that makes the Chiefs more spectacular than us. We have a lot of dogs in this locker room. We have a lot of people. We match them speed for speed. Our defense is probably better than their defense, but it comes down to little mistakes that we continue to make, end quote. You think?
What?
There are 32 teams stacked with talent, man. There are 32 teams stacked with talent on their practice squad waiting for people to step in. You think you're all professional athletes. You're all at the top of your collegiate game. You all got drafted high. And what the hell is he talking about?
I don't know, but he definitely just embarrassed himself a lot. I did not hear that, but even with my notes here, I was going to say I thought the Broncos defense would have made this one a little bit closer than it really was, but it was actually the Chiefs defense and special teams that stood out in this game, because when Kansas City was up 10-6 in the second, they had a 50-yard interception return for a touchdown to push the lead to 17-6. Then a few minutes later, after Denver kicked a field goal, Byron Pringle had a 102-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to push it to 24-9, and the Chiefs just kept rolling from there, ultimately winning 43-16. So that just makes it even worse that this dude's saying his defense is better than their defense, when in fact his defense gave up all these points and the Chiefs defense had a huge game. So sucks to be that guy. He shouldn't put up bulletin material like that.
So yeah, I agree with you, Zach. But just how embarrassing. The funny thing is, I understand what he's saying. I understand what he's saying, and he believes in his teammates, and they're trying to build something. But you got to be real careful how you phrase things in the press, because it'll come back around and bite you. So, all right, next up, 49ers at Patriots. Ding dong, the dynasty is dead.
Yes,
I think it probably had some life support, but I think yesterday now we can call it. We can call it time of death. I think Beelzebub probably called O'Brien yesterday and asked if he could come join him on vacation instead. Bill's got to be about done. Look, if I won 6 Super Bowls and I'm at the top of the game for 20 years like this, and he's tired because he's been doing it so long, he's got to be looking in the mirror and saying, what the hell am I still doing here? On the other side of the coin with the 49ers, a big win for the 49ers, the NFC West, we have 4 teams jammed at the top, fighting for that top NFC West spot. Thanks to the Seattle loss to Arizona yesterday, the 49ers are 4-2, but theoretically they're just 1 game out of first. And this is going to be a fun division to watch the rest of the year.
Oh, for sure. And definitely watch out, because the Niners are back. They dominated the Patriots in Foxborough. They won 33-6. Jimmy G I don't know how I feel about him right now. He was 20 for 25, 277 yards, but 2 of those incompletions were interceptions, and he had no touchdowns. So he's struggling a little bit, but he was still consistent. 2025 is not bad at all. But The run game had his back. Jeff Wilson Jr. ran for 112 yards, 3 touchdowns before he left with an injury. As a team, the Niners had 197 yards on the ground with 4 touchdowns. And like you said, they moved to 4-3. They're only 2 games back in a tightly contested NFC West. The Patriots on the other end are 2-4, and it's absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. They're going to take a huge slide back on the power rankings. And I kind of wanted them to kind of do well this year so that we could continue to say that, it's all Belichick and Brady can go himself. But, it's Patriots suck right now. So
Tell us how you really feel, Efe.
I'll take all the W's I can get. The Patriots sucking is one, so I'll take it.
To that point, and I know that as Colts fans, we've hated Belichick and Brady for a long time, but it doesn't hurt that Brady's down here in Tampa. But in all fairness, it's amazing to see what that split happened. To see which one was going to have the most success, and Brady has made a hell of an argument that he was the magic behind those Super Bowl teams. That's hard to argue with right now.
Well,
Now, obviously, Belichick's a defensive guru and all that kind of stuff. What were we going to say, Hefe?
This is by far the most loaded team that Tom's been on, and one of the most loaded teams on both sides of the ball in the NFL this year. So, I mean, people are going to keep saying that. Tom's had the success without Bill, but most quarterbacks. I mean, Jameis threw for over 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns with the same team. So, it's not surprising, but as somebody who's been a Tom hater and a Patriot hater all this time, it's not so good.
You have about 3 months to get ready for them to win a Super Bowl. If they go to the Super Bowl, you can't bring that shit to my house.
No, right? I won't be at your house. I'll be at Raymond James. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's right. I was about to say we'll be in Tampa.
Good point. I'll be right there with you. All right. Jaguars at Chargers. Jags are bad. Hair Bear gets another notch on his belt. Here's a little trivia. Here's a little trivia for you whippersnappers. According to BigCatCountry.com, the Jags and Chargers final score yesterday of 39-29 was the first time in NFL history that was the final score of a contest.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Well, I mean, a lot of things have happened over the 100 years of the NFL, so it's pretty cool that first time it's ever happens now.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, in this game, it's the same old Jags. Chargers took this one 39-29, like you said. Justin Herbert had another great game, finished 347 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jags are now 1-6. Chargers are 2-4.
Yeah. Like Brad always says, they are who we thought they were, and the Jags just keep on losing. But the Chargers, the Chargers would be better if they could stop the run. I don't know if it's just Derwin James being out and whoever replaces him just isn't good enough, or I don't know what the situation is there, but they got to be able to stop the run. The Jags should have never had a chance in this game, but James Robinson was able to run for 117 yards in this game. So if they want to look good, going down the line, try to get that last wild card seed and push themselves into the playoffs, they're going to have to fix that.
Yeah, and it's kind of a long shot. They've got some work to do, but I do like the kid, and I like the direction they're headed. All right. Next up, Seahawks at Cardinals. Cardinals with the big upset over the Seahawks in overtime. The Seahawks are no longer unbeaten. And Hefe, I understand how you feel about Brady and Bills above, because I feel the same way about Pete Carroll. No love lost watching them get beat yesterday. And as mentioned earlier, the NFC West is up for grabs.
Yeah, so I touted this one as my upset of the week by picking the Cardinals over the Seahawks in our Week 7 preview and pick'em show last Thursday. I told you the Seahawks D wouldn't be able to handle DeAndre Hopkins, and he ended up with 10 receptions, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Absolutely shredded that Seattle pass defense. The Cardinals won this one in overtime, 37-34. But luckily for you guys, I made a massive mistake when making my official picks in our Pick'em League. I accidentally selected the Seahawks, didn't catch it until this morning. So instead of being up 2 games, going into Monday Night Football. I'm only up 1, but I guess I'm keeping it competitive, so it doesn't really hurt that bad. I wouldn't want to run away with it and make you guys look bad now.
Yeah, accidentally. No, it is close. I think I'm 1 game back. So, and we won't talk about. Make sure your pick's right. I don't want to hear this crap tomorrow. You actually pick the wrong pick.
I mean, it was my fault. I should have double checked it. I ran through them. I was busy. Whatever. It still counts. I took the L, but we have video footage from our show last week where I said the Cardinals would get this. Jeff called it ballsy, and it ain't ballsy. I just know.
It ain't no guess. That's what it's going to be.
That's right.
Well, I mean, who would have thought that Russell Wilson throws 3 interceptions? Like, you should have never had a chance to even get this game right. This should have been a Seahawks win easily, but Russell Wilson, 2 out of his 3 interceptions were just careless plays trying to make something happen. So, unfortunately, the Seahawks let the Cardinals get back into this one. They played some clock management at the end and ended up working out in favor of the Cardinals.
All right. So on one final note before we go, I need to clarify there is only one remaining unbeaten team in the NFL this year, and that is hold your ears, Jeff, the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. So as we're recording this, 1 game remains, the Bears and the Rams on Monday Night Football. So let's wrap this up. It's not too late to go head-to-head against us in the weekly pick-'em battle. Right now, Zach is 1 game ahead because he accidentally picked the wrong team. We'll see who he accidentally picks tonight. Hop on our Facebook, Twitter page at Horsemen Sports, where you can find the link to join our free Pigskin Pick'em League and win a prize. Maybe get on there with us and represent your team. Also, every Wednesday, check out Hefe's Power Rankings, weekly Power Rankings. You can find it on our Facebook and Twitter page at Horsemen Sports as well. Be sure to check it out and let us know in the comments what you think about your favorite team's ranking. And people haven't been shy about what they think about Hefe's rankings. Some agree and some don't. It's usually the Texans fans who don't agree, or the Cowboys fans, or the Lions fans, or the Jets fans. Well, we haven't had any Jets fans on there, but they're delusional anyway. All right, so check out our weekly episode of Fantasy Central, where Zach and Hefe will cover this week's top waiver wire picks, must-starts, and players to avoid this coming week. I need to go back and say not all Jets fans are delusional. I know some Jets fans that know that the Jets suck. So I had to say that in all fairness. There's only a few that are delusional. Anyway, and of course, we will see you back here on Thursday for the Week 8 game picks and preview show. Until then, thanks for joining us. See you Thursday.